Stress, burnout, overwhelm. We all face it, but George Pitagorsky helps you rise above it with a grounded blend of mindfulness, systems thinking, and day-to-day practical tools. He's had decades as a coach, a tech exec, and a meditation teacher. And Mr. George has guided thousands towards optimal wellness and performance. And he's here with me, Mr. Robert Plank, on Marketer of the Day. Our podcast is powered by dfypodcast.com. We remove the tech barriers so you can focus on conversations. And today's real conversation is centered around this idea that optimal living isn't just a concept, it's a daily practice. So George is here to set us straight, help us out. Mr. George, glad to be speaking with you.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. And so what did I leave out in that introduction of yours there? Like, what are you all about? Perfect. What are you passionate? Oh, thank you very much. Well, in that case, what are you all about? What are you passionate about? Yeah.
Well, I'm passionate about helping people to live in the world that we live in a reasonably calm and effective state. So that that's kind of my the thing that I'm doing, and I've been doing it for some time. It comes out of a career of project management, process management, entrepreneurial endeavors, tech exec in a fairly large organization as the CIO, but all that time managing to keep a mindfulness practice going and keeping my head straight with some wisdom teachings from a number of different traditions.
So it is possible in a stressful CIO position where there's all kinds of chaos, all sorts of stress, we can manage it. You think back to someone like Winston Churchill in 1940s, right? England was being bombed every single day, and he was able to take a nap, have a good night's sleep, and get that rest and get his mind on right. And exactly. So why do you think some people like you have it and others don't? Like, what's the missing ingredient around our mindset or our stress?
Well, there's there's a certain amount of grace that's associated with it. Some people just will never get it, but for those who have the desire for it, it takes an effort. It takes a sense of setting an intention to be more calm and more effective, and then finding techniques that are going to allow for mind training that both deals with the cultivation of focus and mindfulness, as well as a mindset change that starts to cut away any kind of unskillful beliefs and mental models that are keeping us from really achieving what we want to achieve.
Okay, so we need to want it and we need to cultivate it.
Exactly. And then the more we want it, the more we cultivate it, and have the patience to realize that the cultivation takes some time. It's not like, it's like planting a seed. It doesn't immediately flower into a beautiful rose, but it takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, but definitely doable.
And how do we start? Like you say that, so like mindfulness is the key in getting a handle on this. If someone says, I'm completely emotionally illiterate, Mr. George, help me, what do I do?
Well, one way to start is to read my book, basically, which is a program for how to manage, how to optimize your wellness and your performance through self-aware living. And the basic starting point is to begin to assess where you currently are. What's happening in your life that really brings you to the table of wanting to de-stress and so forth? How much stress is happening to you? What is bringing you to this space? And then once you understand where you're at and you start to looking at, well, why am I here? What about the way that I'm thinking? What about the way that I'm behaving is keeping me from being as optimally well as possible? So it's a self-assessment. It's the building of self-awareness. At the same time, and again, this is not such a linear path. It's basically a combination, more like if you look at a rope is made up of a number of different strands that are woven together. So the first strand is intention, understanding of self-assessment. Another strand is the development of mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply the cultivation of a greater degree of being able to objectively observe what's going on. Everybody is mindful to a degree, but we can enhance our mindfulness. We can enhance the ability to be objectively aware of whatever is happening, moment to moment. The more we are moment to moment aware of what's going on internally and externally, the more likelihood we have choice of the way that we're going to respond in a given situation, choice of how we're going to operate in our lives. So we cultivate this mindfulness, couple it with that intention, and then we start also developing focus, more capacity to choose what to do and to stay with it in the face of distractions. So in order to do that combination of developing mindfulness and focus, we generally will, I would recommend some kind of a meditation practice, which doesn't have to be going off into a retreat center or a cave or something like that. Can start very, very simply by choosing every so often, day to day in your work situation, to take a minute to do what I call a breather. Just come into contact with the sensations of your body, feel the weight of your body against your chair, or you're standing up against your feet, feel the air against your skin, take a breath, and you're present. And that's all it needs in the beginning. That's really a meditation practice in a minute, or less than a minute. And you can do it anywhere. So you start cultivating that, what I call an informal practice. And then if you're leaning towards more intensity, you start developing a formal practice. You choose to sit or stand for a period of time. Start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, work up to like a half an hour, create a consistent practice for that. And now you're engaged in a more formal cultivation of this mindfulness and focus. Some people don't want to do that. So they can work in there, if you go to the gym, you're on the treadmill. Instead of spacing out or listening to a podcast, you can just be present. And you can use that as an opportunity. Or if you're listening to a podcast or music, be with it. You know, some people, myself included, I could be listening to a podcast and then all of a sudden I've missed somewhere a few minutes to any number of minutes. Right. And I think that happens to everybody to one degree or another. So what we do is we use the opportunities that are presented to us so that we're more and more likely to be cultivating this quality of mindful awareness and focus. And I'm going to close my blinds so that these lines on my face go away.
Okay, fair enough. We're improvising here, right, on the spot. And so while you're closing those blinds, I want to mention that book that you mentioned. It's called The Peaceful Warrior's Path: Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living. And as we're talking, if you're the kind of person that I know we just said be in the moment, but if you want to not be in the moment for 2 seconds while we're talking, you can go and check out the book on Amazon. It's by George Pitagorsky. That last name is Pitagorsky. And so you said a lot of amazing, interesting things, right? Anyone can pick up this habit. It seems like a good practice to begin using, and you can just dip your toe in the water, right? Try a little bit, try for a minute or a few minutes, try the standing, try doing it while you're at the gym, driving, and just being more aware of the moment and the physicality. And it has me wondering and curious about your own journey and your own transformation. Did you always have this dialed in? Did you get to a point where you were so stressed that this was necessary? Like, what was your life before you figured all this out?
Well, uh, clearly I've been stressed and working with anger issues for for a lifetime, but I didn't come to this meditation and related stuff until the 1970s. I was around 30 years old, and I started doing something called Kundalini yoga. And I started doing it because my wife had a thyroid condition, and somebody told her that she could do yoga and it would cure her. So we figured, let's see if that's going to happen. And I had the good fortune of running into some really wonderful teachers back in the 70s when this stuff was just really getting off the ground. And it led me into the clarity about the ability to integrate the practices of yoga, meditation into daily life. My daily life at that time was two kids, a wife, a job that at that time was a principal in a tech startup, software design associates. So we developed software and did consulting work in the computer application world, which was kind of stressful, but at the same time fun, 24/7 type of activities. And then more and more, I was getting involved in the world of yoga and meditation and Buddhism. So I dropped out for a couple of years. And that showed me two things. One, dropping out and not working is really nice, actually. But if you want to make a living, you have to find a way of dropping back in a fashion that is conducive to being relaxed and at the same time being really focused and capable of achieving whatever it is that you choose to achieve. So I became a project management expert and worked globally doing trainings and consulting and helping people put together project management offices and things like that. But at the same time, integrating the mindfulness, integrating the activity, the mindset that enables real work in the world.
And I'm really curious about tapping into that mindset because I'm always thinking like I could use more focus, I could use more thinking, but there's this struggle of saying, well, if I am relaxed and if I meditate and I do all these techniques, like won't that kind of like soften me? Like I want to be a big tiger and like chew up the whole world. So do people come to you with this issue of saying like I do want to be mindful and relaxed, but I want to achieve so much, right? I want to blow up the rocket ship.
But the two things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, being calm, collected, capable of being mindful and focused is going to give you a leg up in whatever you choose to do. It's going to give you the ability to achieve goals that you're clever enough to actually set and stick with if they're reasonable goals. So what I teach people is to integrate mindful awareness into whatever they're doing. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're looking to achieve greatness and build a company, or maybe not build a company but make a lot of money, whatever it is, you set that as an intention, and then you apply yourself, your intelligence, to getting into a flow state with that. And I use the term flow in the sense that it's that quality of performance where you're almost not doing anything, but at the same time, you're operating in the most optimal way that's possible. So a stellar athlete gets into flow when they do their work, whether it's on gymnastics or football or whatever it is, they're in flow when they're operating most effectively. The same thing applies to a person in business, person in any endeavor, person who doesn't work at all but lives with other people. You know, you get into the flow, you start to see where your own mind is getting in the way of your performance, and you
Oh,
start to push that away. You start to cut through the obstacles that are keeping you from achieving whatever it is that you choose to achieve. So, you mentioned a tiger. Do you ever see a tiger after its prey? Totally relaxed, but at the same time, incredibly focused. It's not thinking about anything. It's just allowing its instincts to drive itself and make the greatest use of its capacity.
relaxed, focus, making the greatest use of its capacity. It's what we want. And do you ever see people self-sabotage this? I can see how if the mindfulness is not developed, there's the letting the distractions win, there's the being overcommitted, but like what needs to be removed in order for the rest of us to get our flow state figured out?
Well, you ask if I ever see that. I see it all the time. That's, uh, but it's common. So how do we get out of that? We again go back to this notion of intention. Okay, if one realizes that they're getting in their own way, that's the first step. So now I figure, okay, what is it? What are the mental models that are keeping me down? What are the habits? What are the distractions that I'm distracted by? What are the all of the obstacles that might be in my life? What are they? And then I start to cultivate that quality of focus so that I can choose. Let's say, some people have habits that keep them from really being most effective. For example, some people are always late. So if there's a habit of always being late, and one recognizes that as being an obstacle to really being effective in whatever they're doing, one now starts to break the habit. So did you ever have to break a habit?
All the time.
Yeah. So is it easy?
No, of course not, especially not
No,
at first.
exactly. So you have to now recognize that breaking a habit is difficult and that it requires discipline and effort, and that you buy into the fact that you're going to expand that discipline and effort to get what you want, which is to break that particular habit or any number of habits. So it might start with the recognition that some feeling is coming up and you're reacting to that feeling. And the reaction to that feeling is resulting in your procrastination or whatever it is that's keeping you in that habit. So you recognize it, and then you do the hard work of not allowing your internal feelings to exhibit themselves in your behavior. You still have the feelings, and you honor those feelings because they're real. You don't want to bury them in any fashion. You just want to cut the connection between an internal feeling and an external behavior. And you do that by applying mindfulness and discipline. And it
Very
doesn't
cool.
happen in a minute.
Right.
It takes really a significant amount of discipline and effort to get to that point where you no longer have to apply discipline and effort.
Huh.
It just becomes
Yeah.
natural at that point.
Yeah. Basically, untraining our own impulsivity, right? To say at first,
Exactly.
when I'm completely untrained, the feelings just completely dictate what I do, and I kind of cut the connection, as you say, and then so I get these feelings, but then I choose the actions that I take, and then over time, then that just becomes more automatic. And I can see why you like to speak to entrepreneurs about this because it seems like that entrepreneurial lifestyle and journey is all about the hard work, not for no reason, but the hard work for an even greater reward. And it's so tempting in life to play it safe, and great, you can get a 9 to 5 job if that's what you want, but if you want to have more of the risk and adventure, then it requires more work, but the work then pays off. And so in our last few minutes of our conversation here, Mr. George, like you've helped so many people, you have lots of cool stuff to say, you have this book, but I want to make sure that we cover the bases and talk about what really interests and excites you. So in our conversation that we're having, is there a missing, hidden, invisible question that I should be asking you, I just don't know to ask you?
Mm. You've asked me a lot of, the core questions. I can't think of anything, I don't want to get to politics or stuff like that, but that's, kind of been in my mindset to how do we deal with the current situation that we might be finding our countries in the world in terms of how do we uh, enable ourselves to float through it and at the same time be present and to be doing something to really do what we can to make the world a better place. I think that's a passion that I have and a goal for me.
Nice. Well, isn't that Bruce Lee that said "be water," right? Meaning you
Yeah,
shape, but
yeah,
you also head somewhere.
exactly, exactly. And know that by having that kind of mindset, you're going to be super effective, fluid, and at the same time strong when it's appropriate to be strong, and placid and clear when it's appropriate to be placid and clear.
I like it. Adaptable. And help us with that
Okay.
adaptability and success and stress relief, transformation, all that great stuff. What are some next steps here? If someone says, George said a lot of great things, I want to check out his book, his website, his contact information. What's the next step? Where should someone go?
Well, certainly they can buy my book and do that. The other option is go to my website and take a look at that. But I think in general, there's a huge number of opportunities to practice a combination of mindful awareness, body work through yoga, tai chi, any other related body mind combination. Get into something like that, and you don't have to spend a lot of your time. People who are both in corporate situations and entrepreneurial situations have different but the same kind of issues, and a lot of it boils down to not having enough time to do anything but the work that they're doing. So my suggestion is to find something that you can fit into your life, and it won't necessarily fit so easily and nicely, but find something that you can fit into your life that's going to help you cultivate a presence and awareness. And it
I
might
like it.
be any kind of physical and or mental activity. I also suggest that people start to understand the nature of cultivating a mindset that's based on what is called perennial wisdom. There's a millennia of people, philosophers, religious saints, everybody, who have discovered that there's a certain basic way of thinking that helps people to be present and aware and as effective as they can possibly be. And a lot of it is centered on changing your relationship to yourself. We
Hmm.
start recognizing that we're not who we think we are. We're not who we say we are. We are something that needs to be discovered. And the more we can delve into that discovery, the more likely it is that we're going to come up with the right methods and concepts.
That is spooky. Thinking about the inner self, and probably the default mode is to not be very kind to yourself, right? Like left unchecked, we say bad things to ourselves. We never say on our worst enemies. So it's time to clean up the mess and change some of that behavior and look into some of these techniques, right? The perennial thinking, the Tai Chi, the mindfulness meditation, and what's great that we have the internet, we have Chat GPT, we can look into these things, and you can even
Exactly.
give Google or Chat GPT your excuses, right? You say, George told me to check out Tai Chi, but I'm time limited, or I have this hectic job, and so you find something that fits in order to get better tapped in to what do you say that those two keywords were? It was like being in the present and awareness or something like that, right?
Being present and aware, being
Okay.
aware of your presence, but at the same time being present in the sense that you are feeling and knowing that you are doing what is appropriate, being in flow.
I like it. Well, it's an important message, especially as you said, in this day and age, in the political situation. And will life get simpler or more complex? Well, it'll get more complex. So it's up to us to step up and make a change. And we can do that with these two amazing, excellent resources that George mentioned. One is the website, that's self-awareliving.com, where you can find out about his breakthrough monthly newsletter. They talk about topics like happiness, contentment, mindfully balancing work and the rest of your life, and more. A path to optimal living, optimal wellness, and beyond intellect to experience. And the book that we've mentioned is The Peaceful Warrior's Path, Optimal Wellness Through Self-Aware Living by George Pitagorsky on Amazon.com, wherever books are sold, as the kids say. And it weaves together, like we mentioned at the beginning, this metaphor of the rope with the strands that spiral together and all work together and make something strong. Self-awareness, mindfulness, meditation, stress management, and relaxation techniques, and emotional, spiritual, and social intelligence to sustain optimal wellness and enhance performance in whatever you do. And if that sounds like something that you need, that could get you to where you want to go, get that book, The Peaceful Warrior's Path by George Pitagorsky. But before I let you go, Mr. George, it's time for the scary part of the podcast where I try to put you on the spot. I try to stump you by asking you about a quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business. So, what do you have for a quote or lesson?
Accept, let go, into flow. There's nobody that you're not in control.
Very nice.
Accept,
Accept, let go, into
let
flow.
go, into
And
flow, and you're not in control.
you're not in control. Well, let's think about that. Let's practice it as we check out The Peaceful Warrior's Path on Amazon and go to self-awareliving.com, where you can overcome obstacles and unnecessary stress and be happy. Thanks to Mr. George Pitagorsky. We need this education. We need this training. And thanks for being here, George, for educating us, helping us out, telling us what we need to know. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.